Feeling trapped by the ticking clock, or maybe you feel like time is slipping away, like you won't be able to accomplish everything you want in this lifetime. I know the feeling, but today time will become your ally. In this video, we're going to explore how to utilize Einstein time. We're going to say goodbye to rushed feelings and embrace a life of fulfillment and learn how to make every moment count. And by taking a brief look into why time was invented and the purpose that it truly serves, we'll learn in the end how to break free from the illusion of time so that we can go from rush to bliss. Welcome to Defying Resistance. My name is Francis. I help you to overcome the resistance so that you can live a more wildly beautiful life. Thank you for joining us. If you're new to the channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. So if time feels more like an enemy than a friend, then hang on for the ride. We're about to dive pretty deeply into this. My client actually asked this question in our coaching call last week. She said that she's always feeling like she's running out of time. And so we spent the rest of our session really breaking that down bit by bit. And I'll share with you a little later what truly were the deep-rooted feelings underneath the belief that she was running out of time. So we're going to circle back. I can wholeheartedly relate to this because there are times where I catch myself and remind myself that I'm exactly where I need to be. So there are times where I do feel like, am I running out of time? Am I on course here? So I can totally relate to this question, especially there's a lot of deep programming around time. But after my conversation with my client, I asked myself, why was time invented? What purpose does it really serve? Because I think back of the amount of times that I had to clock in, clock out, or even when you think about school, right? The bell rang at a certain time. We were told when to eat and for how long. And so I started to believe that time might have been created for conformity and compliance, which led me to travel back in time and think about, okay, well, what did indigenous cultures believe about time? Because back in the day, they would just rise with the sun and then sleep with the setting of the sun. And that's how they sort of navigated the space, right? And the land. So I wondered about the disconnect between the time that we have now and the time that used to be. So of course, I did a little bit of rabbit holing on this idea because I rarely take things at face value in my quest for truth. I'm always questioning. I have lots of questions about things. And by the way, this is how you begin to deprogram your own mind. It's by asking questions. Why do I believe this to be true? And why do I believe in that? And how does that belief impact my life? And, don't ever take what someone says or has told you as pure gold, because even the things that I say, check in with yourself and see if there's any resonance. Anyway, I stumbled on this article on The Atlantic called The Creation of Modern Time, in which it explores the historical development of our modern concept of time. It discusses how the notion of time, as we understand it today, was constructed and shaped to serve the interests and needs of the world's wealthy and powerful individuals. So in other words, the construction of time was a huge benefit because having time or having synchronized time and the standardization of the time zones were really driven by the European elites who sought to protect their influence and facilitate global trade. So I really want you to keep this in mind as you think about you're running out of time, or reflect on the times that you've rushed yourself from one place to another, because we really need to see time for what it truly is. And so in indigenous cultures, time was not strictly measured by clocks or calendars, but was understood through natural phenomena, such as the movement of the sun, the moon, the stars, and of course, changing of the seasons, and even the behaviors of the plants and the animals. The cycles of nature served as important markers for time, guiding activities such as planting, of course, harvesting, and ceremonial rituals. So rather than viewing time as a finite resource to be managed or controlled, indigenous cultures embraced a more fluid and holistic understanding of time. Past, present, and future were seen as interconnected, and ancestral knowledge and wisdom were passed down through generations, linking the past from the present and informing future decisions. And so the time that we're currently in is called the Newtonian Paradigm. Stay with me. This is all going to come full circle, because by having these contrasted perspectives, it's going to encourage you to reframe the idea that you're bounded by time. So Newtonian Paradigm says that we only have a finite amount of time, that time is absolute and fixed, and that we must be very careful how we use that time and what we do with that time. I don't wholeheartedly agree with all of this, right? The word careful to me evokes fear. So I'm already on protection mode. Now I'm on guard, and that's just not a really good feeling. So I want to switch the word careful to mindful, because what Newtonian Paradigm has you believing is that time is scarce. Behind that scarcity, there's a sense of urgency that one must adopt if they are to accept this paradigm as truth. And so based on this paradigm, we associate time with productivity, efficiency, and achieving specific goals with predetermined timeframes. You can see why some of you might be questioning if you've achieved enough. This enoughness comes from this paradigm. You see, these societal expectations and these collective agreements of time has created a very stressful relationship with time. And so as a result, this leads to a sense of pressure, stress, hurriedness, and of course, the fear of running out of time. According to the Newtonian Paradigm, we either have little or to no time at all. I don't know about you, but I'm not about that life to think that I don't have an abundance of time. So let's continue. Can you see how this belief has been ingrained in you? Can you see the connection between scarcity and time and why you might be feeling the way that you do about time as it relates to your healing journey? The reason I burnt out is because I didn't feel like I had enough time. So I had to do double the work. My nervous system was hijacked from that running and gunning, right? That go, go, go state. I didn't even know what to do with myself. I found myself getting even more just frustrated with the culture, with the people, and I couldn't enjoy myself because my nervous system wasn't able to relax. In Thailand, they move a lot slower. They ease into the day. They focus more on family time than work. They focus on leisure time than work. And that was a huge difference for me because I couldn't relax. I really couldn't relax enough to really enjoy and fully appreciate the pace. And as I've traveled to about maybe 21 countries now, I realized that's a lot of these countries' attitude towards time, towards leisure, towards how we use our time. Because even traveling through South America, it's a much slower pace. The Caribbean has a much slower pace. So I was someone who was always running late, double booked, overbooked, and it wore on me. It really did. And so I was very thankful to understand this perspective a bit more, and very thankful for those experiences that allowed me to experience something different than what I was originally experiencing. So time now, as you can see, as we go a bit deeper about this, is not an objective or natural phenomenon, but rather a social construct imposed by those in positions of power and influence. Time is a construct. And I definitely understand the relevance of time because some of y'all are like, hey, that's great and all, friend, but I got to be at work at 9 a.m. or I have to pick up my child at daycare, or I have all of these deadlines. I'm not dismissing your personal commitments at all, right? I totally get it. But what I want you to do is reframe how you view your relationship with time. And that's something that you can definitely do and find and learn the balance. So I read this book, The Big Leap. It's an old school book, old school like success, self-help stuff, but it had some really good gems. And towards the end of the book, he talks about the differences between the Newtonian paradigm and Einstein time. And really, this was like the very first time I've actually heard about it. And he talked about it in a way that's super easy to understand and digest. He discusses the misconception that time exists outside of us, which is the Newtonian paradigm, while Einstein's concept of time suggests that we are the source of time. So if we view time as external, we can actually become pretty enslaved by it and feel victimized by it. So it becomes a us versus time thing. But if we see ourselves as the creator of time, we can generate as much of it as we desire. Hang on with me. You'll see it. It's all going to come full circle. For example, can you recall a time where you just lost track of time? It could have happened during a really beautiful conversation with a loved one, or when you were doing something that was creative, that was fun, full of joy. This is flow. This is ease. When you're doing something that you're so connected to that you lost track of time is a beautiful thing. And that's what Einstein's concept of time illustrates. By embracing the Einstein perspective, we are encouraged to fully occupy the present moment and appreciate the relationships and experiences that we have. This allows us to actually expand our consciousness and therefore the constraints of time. Whereas the Newtonian paradigm says that I don't have time for this or that I have to rush to the next thing. When Einstein says savor this moment without the run-in, because being present means not constantly dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. We get that on a basic level. And so by understanding that we have the power to shape time, we take ownership of it and resist being controlled by external forces. This is so important because feeling like we lack control of our time can actually lead to a sense of being owned by others or being disconnected from meaningful work. There was a really good example of this maybe about 2 weeks ago. I was dropping my cousin off at work, and she's a nurse, so she works pretty early. She had a patient, but no one told her that she had this patient. And she was supposed to be at work by 5:30. They wanted her to come earlier. And she got really frustrated, rightfully so, because it was last minute. But even after we got in the car, she was rushing, she was complaining, she was saying all these things and, just expressing herself. And then eventually I was like, it's okay if you're late. You already know that you're going to be late. So if you already know this thing's already happening, why are you stressing yourself out? Why are you creating more anxiety or more stress on your nervous system? Don't let people hijack your time and pull you into their emergencies, almost forcing you to adopt their scarcity and anxiety-provoking perspectives. The key question becomes, how are we utilizing our time and energy? Time for me is also based on capacity, my energy. Do I have the energetic capacity to engage in projects, people, and so forth? Let's talk about my client from earlier. As we dug a little bit deeper, what we discovered underneath the rushed sense of running out of time was her being genuinely concerned about whether or not she would learn everything that she needed to learn so that she can progress on her healing journey. And this is all totally typical. This is normal. Often underneath the idea of this rushed sense of feeling underneath time is meaning. Have I lived a meaningful life? Will I live a meaningful life? Have I contributed in my life or to the world in a way that makes me feel satisfied? Am I at peace with how my life is currently? It is your search for meaning that has created this illusory relationship with time. When we switch into Einstein time, this means that we take charge of the amount of time that we have. We start to understand where time truly comes from. And we begin to understand that I can make as much of it as I need because I am the producer of time. Time isn't against you, because you are time. If you're feeling like this and you want to go from rush to bliss, this is your invitation to reframe your perspective of time and take ownership of your time, and not let time own you. Some of you might feel like you don't own your time right now, that someone else owns your time, or you feel like you're out of alignment with the work that you're doing, or you feel like you're not contributing to your life or the world the way that you would love to. So this nudge about time is really more of a deeper spiritual nudge than anything else. Because the real question isn't, am I running out of time? Although I'm sure it feels that way. But the real question is, how are you using your time? And how is your energy being impacted by your relationship with time? I'll leave you with this, just to put you at ease. You ain't gonna learn everything you need to learn. So let's just take that out. You may not do everything that you want to do, but that shouldn't get in the way of you still learning and experiencing what life has to offer. Many indigenous cultures believe that time is sacred, it's ceremonial, and it's connected to spiritual dimensions. And people were encouraged to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature and their tribe. I believe that we are infinite beings, so the concept of time is just a construct, and we have to learn how to relate to time in sort of a spiritual way. And we need to remember that we are made of energy. And so energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transformed. Therefore, our consciousness will continue to live in different ways. Thank you for watching this video. If you found value in the video, definitely like, subscribe to the channel so that we can continue to encourage you and empower you in many different ways. Leave a comment below and let me know what your relationship is like with time and how do you plan on using it moving forward. As always, I will see you on the other side of wholeness.